In this video, we're going to do the do together section for 3.4. We'll look at some different methods. For number 1, we have 2/3 is equal to x over 12. What we can see for this one is we have a couple different ways we can solve this question. We notice that we can use our first fractional method for equivalent fractions by seeing that 3 up to 12 is times 4, and then we can do the same in our numerator, giving us an answer of 8. So that's one method. Another method is to use algebra. So I'm going to show that method now. So we're going to cross multiply here. So on one side of our equation, we're going to have 12 times 2. And on the other side of the equation, we're going to have 3 times x. So we're going to solve each side. 12 times 2 is 24, is equal to 3 times x, which is 3x. And then we can go ahead and do the inverse operation. Because we're multiplying to x, we're going to divide in order to cancel out the 3's. And what we do on one side of the equal sign, we must do on the other side of the equal sign. So 24 divided by 3 is 8. So x is equal to 8. So those are two methods we can use to solve. When the numbers are simple, you can definitely use the equivalent fraction method. When the numbers become more challenging, you can use algebra, the cross multiplication method, to solve for x. So we can see for number 2, 8 to 10, that's not working very easily. So we're not going to be able to use equivalent fractions in this example to solve for x. But what we can do is we can use algebra. So we can cross multiply 8 times x on one side is equal to 36 times 10 on the other side. 8 times x is 8x. 36 times 10 is 360. Now we can solve for x. We can divide by 8 and divide by 8. 8 divided by 8 cancels, leaving us with x isolated. 360 divided by 8 is 45. So x is equal to 45. For number 3, we have decimals. It's very common to have decimals in proportions. We solve the exact same way. We can see the equivalent fraction method won't really work here, so we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. So on one side of the equals, we're going to have 0.06 times 0.4. And remember, you can have these two numbers switched around. That's totally fine. And on the other side, we're going to have 0.3 times x. So with our calculator, we're going to multiply 0.06 times 0.4, and that's going to give us 0.024. And on the right-hand side of my screen, it's 0.3x. Because we're multiplying to x, we're going to divide that out. 0.3 gets divided on both sides of the equal sign. We have to have balance, so it has to happen to both sides. And that gives us x isolated. 0.024 divided by 0.3 is equal to 0.08. So x is 0.08. When we have fractions, we have to take the time to determine what the answer is using the fractions. So if your question has only fractions and whole numbers in there, you cannot change it to decimals. So we're going to use our cross multiplication method. On one side of the equal sign, I'm going to have 1/4 times 8. And I'm going to put that as 8 over 1 right off the bat. On the other side, I'm going to have 1/2 times x. Over time, you'll see me drop this multiplication raised dot and just have 1/2 x. But for now, we can have it as our first step. So I'm going to solve over on the left-hand side. 1/4 times 8 over 1, I can see that I can cross reduce, so I'm going to divide by 4 and divide by 4. That's going to give me 2 over 1, which is 2. Or I can write it as 2 over 1, your choice. That's going to be equal to half times x. So now because I'm multiplying x by a half, I need to divide by a half. And I'm going to do the same over here on the left-hand side, canceling out the half and the half on the right-hand side. Now I have 2 divided by a half, so 2 over 1 divided by a half is equal to x. Well, that's 2 over 1 times 2 over 1. So 2 over 1 times 2 over 1 is equal to 4. And that's equal to x. So x is equal to 4. A quarter over a half is equal to 4 over 8. Sometimes you get questions like number 30, where you have fractions and decimals. What you can do when you have both fractions and decimals is change the fractions to decimals. That's allowed. So I'm going to take 8 4/5 and I'm going to convert that to a decimal. So 8 4/5, you can write this as 8 decimal, and then on your calculator you can take 4 divided by 5. And 4 divided by 5 is 0.8. So 8 4/5 is equal to 8 8/10. So 8.8. So I'm going to write that up here. So I'll just write that over here. 8 4/5 is equal to 8.8. 1 1/10 is equal to 1 point, and then we take 1 divided by 10, which is going to give you a decimal of 0.1 or 1/10. So you're going to have 1.1. Now that we've changed our fractions or mixed numbers to decimals, we can go ahead and use our cross multiplication method. So we're going to have 8.8 times 0.4 on one side of the equal sign, and 1.1 times x on the other side of the equal sign. And 8.8 times 0.4 gives a result of 3.52 is equal to 1.1 times x. And because we're multiplying to x, we will divide in order to eliminate that. And we're going to divide by 1.1 over here as well. And 3.52 divided by 1.1 gives a result of 3.2. So x is equal to 3.2.